A warm welcome to Teva's webinar series. We appreciate your time to take from your schedule to join this call. So today's topic would be unlocking India's medical device regulatory landscape. So my name is Shravanti Hingi. I have 10 years experience in the field of regulatory and the core expertise on the medical device and in vitro diagnostic categories. I worked with organizations ranging from small startups to the multinational, and where my core area of expertise involves in developing regulatory strategies during the development of devices, submissions, including documentation requirements, and to oversee regulatory submission throughout the device approval. So, along with in India, I do have a global regulatory experience on other regulations such as Europe or Australia. So I have assisted many device manufacturers registering their devices, IVDs, including the combinational devices with authorities. So today's agenda would be, let us discuss first on overview of the Indian medical device industry, followed by regulatory landscape and the regulatory requirements, and then classification and regulatory approach, followed by the registration pathways for medical devices and IVDs in India, and post-approval requirements, Indian authorized representative responsibilities, and pre-submitted question and answers. So before going into the regulations, let us understand the medical device industry in India. So as we all knew that India is the fourth largest Asian medical device market, and it is expected to grow around $50 billion by 2020 with a componential growth rate of 16.4%. Currently, the Indian medical device market share in the global market is estimated to be 1.65%, and the exportation of medical devices has been significantly grown, and it is expected to reach $10 billion by 2025. So if you see, the medical device market is significantly growing in India, and also there is a completely and a significant support provided by the government of India with initiatives such as production linked incentive scheme, so which is for mostly supportive for the domestic manufacturers, and scheme for the promotion of medical device parks. This is also nationally wise they are located, and still it is ongoing the process where infrastructure for the medical devices manufacturers is being advanced by this parks. And the other one is foreign device investment policy, where the foreign manufacturers or the foreign investments on the medical devices manufacturing companies, and import-export policy, medtech exhibitions, and the final one is the quality standards. So where the government initiatives are making the products to be reliable, to make it to quality standards. So in the support of manufacturers, providing different policies incentives to the manufacturers. To reach this, and where we have observed some market key trends which were observed throughout in India would be, one is big data. So big data, because in India is the fastest growing medical device industry or the sector if you see, and the medical device has a huge amount of essential timely data that has a significant clinical impact, like a predictive analysis models. So it helps physician to gain useful insights. So next one would be the robotic surgeries. So as we all knew in the surgeries, especially the complicated surgeries, example drug delivery, release system surgeries, and tissue repair surgeries, these robotic surgeries are coming up a lot. Coming into the telemedicine, this is one of the enabled sector where a remote doctor consultation is remote doctor consultation connecting thousands of people, especially living in the remote area. And the startups company where around 4,000 Indian health tech startups are undertaking multiple innovations which are helping medtech industry, and where health and digital health, example the software medical devices or any such type of products have raised over nearly $2 billion between this 2011 to 20. And the next trend would be the wearable devices. So these are again a very quickly grown market where health monitor devices or the smartwatches, which is used by anybody, by a layman as well, because of the ease of use. And the home healthcare devices, again, this is one of the sector where you find has a potential to replace up to 65% of the unnecessarily hospital visit, and also it reduced the cost in the last years if you see. So these are the some market trends if you observe most of the manufacturers are focusing on, and it is having a high growth market in India. Now coming to the what are the advantages of doing market in India? As explained earlier, yes, because of an increase in demand, because there are rising number of medical device facilities in India, which increase the growth of the market as well as demand of the devices in India as well. And the next one is opportunities in export, as because of the policies, and also there is a trade which was expected to increase $5 billion per annum. And coming to the policy support, so here, as explained before, because of the government initiatives and the policies, the government offered a legal protection to ensure that the device sold in India are reliable and meeting the quality standards. Next is the increasing investments. So this is one of the example would be the FDI, that is a foreign investments, where the inflow found to be $3.22 billion between 2000 to 2020. Because of the investments, the growth has been observed in the market. And another initiatives were qualified and approved laboratories, where the government has released a list of laboratories that helps manufacturers to test their medical devices or IVDs to comply with the standards. And also there is a released a notification of notified bodies, where the number of notified bodies are increased, that helps the manufacturer to bring their device in market. And the final one is the regulations. So the streamlined regulations are in place currently, where every device has to follow these regulations and get an approval before they market in India, which will be explained in further slides. So now coming to the regulatory landscape. So if you see the regulatory landscape, how it is evolved is first the initiation has started by the health ministry with the medical device rules. There is a regulation released in 2017, and they provided an effective time for January 2018. And then later it is followed by many amendments to the medical device rules, with initiatives of releasing of the classification notifications. That is, the government or CDSCO, the authority has provided a list of notifications which helps the manufacturers to register the devices easily, as they classified the devices of different category. They have classified it based on the intended use, and with that classification, a defined approach was provided. And subsequently, there were many amendments provided with which the process is getting into the streamline. Like higher classes were focused first, and then followed by the moderate and the low risk devices. And by the time 2023 it reached, if you see, the CDSO already provided a buffer time to the manufacturers of moving the products into the registration model, because earlier the products are not mandatorily required to be registered, but they have sequentially or provided a time to the manufacturers to bring the devices into registration mode, and provide a certificate notifications for each class. For A and B classes, where they have provided till October 2022. For class C and devices, the CDSO provided time till October 2023. Hence, currently, as per the current date regulations, all devices falls under the registration mode. That is, you need to have an approval or a license before you market your device in India, excluding a lower risk devices, that as non-sterile, non-measuring class A devices, which I'll be explained in the further slide. So now coming to the regulatory requirements. So if you see this first one, let us discuss on the overview. So what are involved in the regulations, or what is taken care by which authority will be taking care of this medical devices is CDSO, that is the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, and the regulation is medical device rules as explained before, in which is called as MDR 2017. The regulatory pathway. So right now, as I said, as per current regulations, only regulated, that is registered or licensed regime we will call, because all products that requires import license or a manufacturing license will fall under this category. And for lower risk devices, it is called as self-declaration. So there are only two pathways now: license regime and self-declaration. Next would be the authorized representative. So this is one of the mandatory requirement for any overseas manufacturers, where it is called as Indian Authorized Agent or IAA. And what would be the QMS requirements? So quality management system has provided in a schedule 5. So there are certain schedules and chapters detailedly given in the medical device rules, where the schedule 5 talks about the quality management system requirements for every manufacturer, which is equal to IS 13485 standard. So validity of license, it's a perpetual. Yes, there is no as such validity for the approvals or the license that you receive from the CDSO. However, to maintain it active, you need to pay renewal fees for every 5 years. And the labeling requirements has to be followed by Chapter 6 of the MDR 2017, same rules. Along with that, there is a legal metrology act in India, where for any product that is marketed in India should have some common label requirements, which is provided in this legal metrology act. Next is submission format is online, and the language is English. The English documents would be needed here. Assessment of technical data is done by CDSCO or the accredited notified bodies. So the notified bodies is a body which is approved to review the technical documentation as well as the manufacturing site audit. So these are something which will be used for the state authorities. So only these two authorities have the authority to review the data or do the on-site audit. And what is the classification, how it impacts on the regulatory approach? So here, if you see that 4 classes are there in India, that is class A, B, C, and D. And class A falls under low risk, B as a moderate risk, C and D falls under higher risk. So where the first schedule of the MDR talks about the classification, where it is provided a detailed rules for each based on the intended use of the device. Each rules is defined. The classification approach, as explained earlier, from October 2022, all class A and B devices falls under license regime, and class C and D devices are from regulated, that falls under license regime from October 2023. And during this streamlining process, as explained before, CDSO has released a multiple notifications or a classification list for many categories of the devices. So if you see, these are some of the category of the devices under which each list of devices were provided along with the class and the intended use. So the classification based regulatory approach would be, again, for A, B, C, D, it's a standard licensing regime. That is, you have to get a license, import license or a manufacturing license as applicable for you before you market in India. Whereas for a class A, that is a low risk, non-sterile, non-measuring devices, can do a simple self-declaration, which is not a approval that you get a CDSO. You just need to notify in the portal and then you can market the device in India. So if your device in market, it has to be either falls under license or self-declaration. So now what is the pathway? So before we understand a detailed process for the registration in India, these are some of key requisites or the factors that you have to keep in note. First is, yes, as I mentioned, risk class, because based on the class, your approach documentation would be impacted. That is, you have to check what are the requirements for the class A, B, C, and D. Second would be the Indian authorized agent. As explained, this is a mandatory requirement for the foreign manufacturers, where you have to appoint one agent, Indian authorized agent. And the third is, Indian authorized agent should have an online portal account, because that is a mandatory for doing submissions. And the fourth one is the device category and the respective requirements, as explained before, based on the risk class and based on the type, technology of your product, based on the intended use of the product, the respective requirements would be needed to do the submissions. And last will be the reference country approval. So if the product is having approval in GSTF countries, what is the difference? That will be explained in the next slide. So here is a complete regulatory process for the devices in India. As explained before, 2 pathways, licensing regime and self-declaration. So if you see the license regime, under license regime, it is import license and manufacturing license. Let us talk about first on import license. Import license, so the foreign manufacturers or the overseas manufacturer who wants to market the device in India, they have to go to this process to get an import license for their product. So if the device is approved in GSTF, that is US, Europe, Canada, Australia, Japan, and UK. If the device is approved in these countries, then you can directly go for an application for MD14. That is an import license application, which is a form MD14. In case if the product is not having GSTF approvals, but it is approved in the country of origin, then based on the risk class, there are certain additional documentation or additional requirements is needed. Example, for class A and B, you would be submitting the clinical data or the safety and clinical data that is provided from the country of origin, including the FSC from the country of origin would be needed. But if you see for the higher risk devices, there is a possibility that you have to perform clinical investigations in India in form MD22. Once you get the approval for it, once you perform the studies, then only you can proceed with the import license application. So this is the standard process, but it all depends on case to case and based on the type of product you have, whether it has a predicate device in India, whether it doesn't have a predicate device in India. Because this strategy has to come based on your device. If the product is having a predicate, again it would be make simple because you're already providing a substantial equivalent to your device and proving the product is safe and effective to market in India, along with an approval in GST. That makes the reviewer to understand that your device is not completely innovative and it has enough sufficient data to prove it is safe. And based on your data, whatever you have generated for your device specific, manufacturing specific, would be supporting for the MD14 application. So if the product is not having a predicate, then there is a different application where you have to perform in MD27 or 28, where you have to submit the application and then proceed with an import license. And you get approval in MD50. So there are different forms for each process. However, this is the standard process. Generally, all the importers would be going. Coming to the manufacturing license, so obviously this license is applicable for the domestic manufacturers who are from India. And if you see here, the first step for a manufacturer would be getting a test license, because to manufacture batches for doing testing purpose, that is either it could be analytical, clinical, or preclinical, or whatever could be the test they want to perform, they have to manufacture pilot batches, right, for which this test license would be needed. So where the manufacturer has to apply under MD12 and then they get approval, perform the testings, and with that data they have to go for a manufacturing license application. So suppose if the manufacturer has its own manufacturing site, then they can directly go through an application for class A and B as in form MD3, for class C and D MD7. So there are different forms based on the risk. So, but in case if the manufacturer has a different manufacturing site, what does it mean? Suppose if the manufacturer using other manufacturing site, like contract manufacturer, they're using other manufacturing site who already have an experience or who already have a license to manufacture these devices, they will go through this process called loan license. So for this loan license, where they have to get for class A and B, they apply in form MD5, and class C and D, they have to apply in form MD8. And the approvals, if you see for A and B classes, they get in MD5. And for loan license, it's MD6. For class C and D, MD9, and the loan license is MD10. So this is the overall process for the manufacturing license. However, the manufacturing license is not only through the application, they will have an on-site audit for a manufacturer. For class A, there may not be, there is no on-site audit as such, but for class B, C, D, there will be an on-site audit done by the authorities. Whereas for class A and B, the state authorities would be taking care through the notified bodies. They will do the on-site audit and then they will submit the queries through online submission, online portal. But whereas class A and D, the central authority would be involved in it and there would be a joint audit by both notified body and the central authority and providing the approval. So if there are no, if the fee, whatever the queries we receive, if the manufacturer could suffice them with the responses and with updating the documentation, they would be getting the manufacturing license approved. So this is the whole process for the licensing regime. Coming to the self-declaration, as I explained before, it's a very simple process. Where the importer or the manufacturer has to do a notification in the online portal, and once they upload the device details and provide undertaking letters, there will be generated a registration or a file number which has to be used on the label. In case of license, you will be using import license number or a manufacturing license number. In case of self-declaration, you will be using a registration file number on the labels to market in India. So this is the whole regulatory process for medical devices. Coming to the application requirements. So under licensing regime, as explained, yes, test license is one of the mandatory requirement for a manufacturer, and they will have an on-site audit as well for the manufacturer. Apart from this, the both import and the manufacturer should submit complete device master file, that is a technical documentation, and the plant master file. And also the importers or the overseas manufacturer has to submit the free sale certificate and CE certificates, or patent approval, whatever they have reference country approval, they have to submit them as well. Whereas coming to the self-declaration, where again it is also as explained online portal, and you have to submit few undertaking letters, considering that your product is class A and then non-sterile and non-measuring, that is you're declaring that the product is this, and it is whatever data you're submitting is true and authentic, and it complies to the essential principles and the standards. So this is the overall key documentation requirement for both parties. Coming to the validity of the license, as explained before, yes, there is no as such validity, it's perpetuity unless it has been cancelled or surrendered by the agent. Considering here, to make the license valid again or to be active, the retention fee, that is the renewal fee, has to be paid for every 5 years. However, there is a certain due time where you have to do it before the expiry of 90 days with a late fee. In case if the license fails to deposit the retention fee within the stipulated period, then the license shall be deemed to have been cancelled. So make sure that you pay the fee on time, and especially every 5 years it has to be paid. So coming to the post-approval requirements. So post-approval requirements meant to be the changes that you do after the product approval. So based on the changes, the categories are major and the minor changes. In case if your change impacts the quality, safety, performance, and stability of the device, then yes, it falls under the major regulatory change. If the change is on the manufacturing site, address, including authorized agent address as well, or the label major changes, then it just falls under major regulatory change. So what would be the implementation is, you have to get an approval before you market this product. So the implementation has to be done after approval. So generally the approval takes for the importer would be around 60 days. For the manufacturing, it would be 45 days. Coming to the minor change, which shall not impact the quality and safety or performance of the product, then generally it is not required to get an approval. But however, you have to include in your annual report or PCR reports for the device that's applicable. And generally it is expected to have this change the 30 days. Within a period of 30 days, you have to include in the reports. Coming to the one more certificate explanation is registration certificate. So if any entity want to sell, stock, exhibit, or even distribute medical devices or IVDs in India, then there is a different option provided by the government currently is Form 41. So till now, the entities, whatever acting as importer, distributor, or even in Indian authorized agent, they are doing with a wholesale license, which is not specific to the medical devices. Hence, this government has provided a specific form or a registration certificate form 42, specific to the medical devices. If a new entity or an entity who wants to focus on only a medical device market, then it is advised to go through this certificate because which is an easy process if they have this documentation. Example, sub GDP, that is good documentation certification, and Aadhaar card, PAN card, ownership proof. You should have a competent technical staff document, and also the activities that you carried out in the premises. So once you apply, you get approval in Form 42 if your document is authentic and validated correctly, accurately by the officer, where you get registration certificate best by SLA, that is State Licensing Authority, in 10 days. And the validity again, it is perpetuity, and the renewal fees again you have to maintain every 5 years to make it active. However, there will be an on-site inspection even if you get approval in 10 days. Generally, they expect to have a proper storage condition and also specific to your devices. And you have to get products or the devices from the licensed manufacturer or the importer. And the records has to be maintained at least within 2 years. And you have to maintain inspection book, that is a form template provided by the authority as a Form 43. So this is one of the supportive or initiative taken by authority who wants to focus on medical devices market. So let us discuss on some key updates that are recently might be helpful for the manufacturers. One is that yes, all devices require licensing or registration prior to marketing. So this was as explained before, which is a mandatory now for all the devices. Second is a launch of NSWS portal. So this is a national single window system. This is recently was provided by CDSCO, where used for the test license. So generally till now we used a common online medical device portal. So this portal they're making specific to certain applications like test license or who wants to do some clinical test, and or even notified bodies who wants to be a notified body, approved notified body, they can apply through this portal. Another update was there is a neutral code for manufacturing of medical devices for export purpose. It is issued by the CDSCO, where you can submit through online portal. And there is a list of devices as explained before. Yes, there is a list of medical device testing laboratories were issued by the government, and where the medical device manufacturer can test their devices. And also for importers, maybe for manufacturers, test license is a mandatory, but for some products with IVDs and some products which are listed in the some notification, in one notification, where even importer has to perform testing in these laboratories prior to getting approval. That is where this laboratories is important for a manufacturer's to know. And the last one is PSUR submission, so periodic safety update report. Right now they have provided this option in the portal, but however it is not yet mandatory for medical devices, but it is implemented. So it's better to submit the reports whatever you are maintaining for your devices. Now coming to the IR responsibility. So as I explained, this is one of the mandate requirement, and choosing your partner or choosing your regulatory partner, because Indian authorized agent is someone who lies between you and between manufacturer and between the authority. So who should have a regulatory compliance or regulatory idea, right? So that where the Tevas has experts over there, and we would like to explain more about this in the further slide. So first let us talk about the definition of IR. So an organization who has been appointed by the overseas manufacturer through a power of attorney to undertake the import of medical devices in India. So a power of attorney has to be issued by the manufacturer to IAR to act their Indian authorized agent for the devices in India. So, and then what would be the prerequisites to act as IAR is where you should have a valid wholesale license or a registration license, which I explained in earlier slide, that is Form 42, and an apostilled POA, that is you need to have a valid POA from the manufacturer, and online account portal. So what are the responsibilities of IAR generally would be liaison between the authority and the manufacturer to get the approval, and any post-marketing activities also has to be taken care, including all the regulatory submissions is the responsibility of the IAR. But in case if you see the Tevas coming to only to the Tevas being an IAR on the device part would be where there will be supporting to the importer or your distributor in the shipments and the custom clearance as well, and even to support in case of any adverse reaction, recalls, or any regulatory restriction. Supporting within 15 days would be provided, and also guide the manufacturer or the importer on the regulatory challenges, example post-approval changes, applications, and even follow up with the authorities if there are any delay in the process. So broadly, if you see, Tevas will be responsible for all the business activities for the overseas manufacturer in India in all aspects. So let me explain more about this. So if you see, what is the advantage of having Tevas as your IAF? So first, as your market partner, advantage of having Tevas as your market partner would be they ensure your regulatory compliance, and we identify potential distributors for your products and facilitate initial connections, and where the clients or the manufacturers can lead the further developments of the distributor relationships. So we identify specific to your product category and provide you the connections where you can take forward. If we are your commercial partner, Tevas being your IER as well as a commercial partner, then we act as a centralized distributor in India where we identify and appoint local distributors in different regions of India. So this creates a wide and efficient distribution network. You can focus on your core business while Teva will handle the complexities of the distribution. So where Teva's advantage, Teva's being as your operational partner along with an IER, we initiate the building of your local presence in India. So where we put together a dedicated team for you who take charge of sales, partnership, and manages the nuisance of business operations. So that we build the infrastructure and set up the process, operate the business, and also whenever you're ready or whenever you want to take the control, we'll transfer the business to you. So if you see, even though we are the partner, we are the IAR, still the whole control will be with the manufacturer, how they want to market their product, how they want to run the business in India, because either being a market partner or is a commercial partner, we're still not having any restrictions to the manufacturers. So we are giving that opportunity to the manufacturers to market their product in a different pathways. So coming to the pathways, when I say, so what could be the decoding entry pathways into the Indian medical device market is, yes, first is with partnership with your distributor. Provides you with this immediate access to their established networks and a valuable market insights. True, I agree, but however, there are some pros and cons where if you see, the limitation of being bound to a single distributor is that where you would restrict market to reach and flexibility, where you cannot cross over him. You have to limit only to himself if your distributor is your IER. And in case if you're switching to a new distributor also, you would require a fresh product registration because right now in India there is no LR transfer process. Hence you have to do a new registration and provide adding to your operational complexities. And also there is a limitation in terms of protecting your intellectual property, given the potential influence over your registration certificate. So which is one of the key factor. I think many manufacturers would agree with this. So these are some limitations through the distributor. But if you operate through an IAR, where you benefit from faster time to market because of the streamlined process and the established connections of the IAR. Collaborating with an IAR ensures compliance with all local regulatory requirements, which is one of the key factors to be having with an IAR. And leveraging the IAR's market knowledge and distributor connections to reach the right customers, which is very important for a manufacturer, and receive comprehensive sales support while your business operates under the IAR level. So there will be no restriction. If you operate through an IAR, you can have multiple distributors as well, right? So this will help you to run the business and also to standard or to stable this regulatory requirements. Coming to your establishment, your own company, so where you need to build a dedicated in-house team on the ground and combining local expertise with your global vision. So where you need to have a own entity in India to make yourself as a license holder or the product holder. And you have to manage sales, marketing, customer service, providing direct control over your growth, handling regulatory compliance, ensuring adherence to the local norms and guidelines is one of the important. factor here, and extending setup obviously could potentially lengthen time to market, creating a delay in reaching your customers. Hence, our advice would be to go through and operate through an IR, because that helps, where you also are making your complying your product to the regulatory requirements, as well as where your commercials, that is the distribution, will not be impacted, because the holding or the IAR is having the registration holder access, and the distributor will be only involved in the commercials, and the manufacturer can appoint multiple distributors as well through this process. Hence, this comes to the end of the webinar, and let us discuss some pre-submitted questions that we always receive from different manufacturers. One is, who is an IR? As explained before, yes, IR is locally registered entity with CDSCO, authorized to submit registration on behalf of foreign manufacturer. And he is a very, or the entity is a very key factor, because it serves as a liaison between CDSCO and foreign manufacturer. What are the prerequisites of IER? So to act as an IER, you need to have a company or a business incorporated in India with an active corporate identification number, that is CIN number. And obviously you need to be resident of India, and you should acquire a power of attorney from the foreign manufacturer. So this power of attorney is one of the key document even during regulatory submission, so which will be apostilled and you have to submit. Hence, and also you have to possess a manufacturing, wholesale, or a distributor license under this DNC Act 1942 rules 1945. So either of the license you need to have to market to act as an IAR, and also or even the registration form 42 that we are talking before. Third question is, which products import would require IAR? So again, IAR is required only for any foreign company. So it's not specific to product, but it's about to the foreign company. Next question is, how will I be benefited to appoint you or Tevas as my authorized agent instead of my existing distributor in India? This is a very good and valid question, because most of the manufacturers, yes, they may have an option to designate their distributor or importer as the IAR. However, opting for an independent IR service provider is strongly advised, because there will be no control over your product with one distributor. If Tevas will be your authorized representative, then you have a choice to appoint multiple manufacturers, where Tevas would be giving authorization for the importing or distribution or support. Instead of authorization, I can say that the Tevas will support for your distributors for the custom clearance and also the marketing. So where the manufacturer can clearly demark the commercials as well as the with one limitation to one distributor will not be there here. Choosing an independent agency offers the manufacturers the flexibility to appoint multiple distributors. So as I explained, this would be the advised pathway for any manufacturer if they want to appoint multiple distributors. So is it possible to appoint more than one IAR for the same device? Yes, foreign manufacturer can have multiple IARs. However, they have to make sure that each IAR should be registered, should have registered device with them. So that means you have to do registration on each IAR separately. Thank you once again for your time. And if any questions, please request you to drop to this email ID for any questions and queries. Even your comments and feedback are welcome. Let us know if you want to hear from us on any other topic or questions. Please reach out to this ID. Thank you.